Okay, today we're gonna actually have a quick going through of a Python script called Lifecycle Calculator by Brightway2. So basically, it's a calculator for LCA models using Brightway2 LC framework. And in order to do that, of course, you need to have a few files. So the first one you're seeing here is Excel spreadsheet. Basically specifies the key informations that you need for the calculation. For example, you want to specify what is the LCIA method you want to use, right? And also the keywords for the activity. In this case, it's both name and location, but you can actually expand it if you want. And then another file you will need is a configure file. Basically, it's another Python script that basically tells the main script, the calculator, where to find the corresponding information. For example, input sheet, the database, and all the other information, and where to output the results, right? So let's take a quick look here. So in order to run the script, you just open your terminal and then go to the folder where your script is. And then here, you basically just type in Python, the LCA calculator, Brightway2.py, and you need to specify one argument. P is a shorthand for project name. So you need to, if you haven't had any project, you can create a project by specifying name, and the script will ask you whether you want to create this project or not. So this actually, as we will see later, helps you to prevent accidentally create a lot of folders that you don't want, right? So let's click run, and based on the current information, as you remember, we have two activities that's specified in input file, and then we have a couple more in the script. So it's gonna take probably, let's say, 2 minutes to run. So I'll just take this time to briefly go through the main script here. So the first section is kind of self-explanatory, right? So you have to import the packages, Brightway2 and other relevant packages. And remember, you need to also import a config file, which is separate. And then do some housekeeping to first of all specify the database that's currently being supported. That's mostly equal event database, right? And then we're gonna later go back to those two functions that does the calculation. But just looking at what happened after you type in Python LCA calculator, Brightway2.py, right? So that's what happens is when you specify the project name, that's the argument it's going to take. Of course, you can specify as many arguments as you want, but let's say you only have one. Oh, actually, it's faster than expected. The run is done. We'll see the results momentarily. And then basically collects all the arguments and then to use it to find the information in that case, right? So, and then this is the code where basically if you accidentally put in a wrong project number, like project name, you get a chance to terminate the execution and start over again, right? And then it's very simple. You go through the supported database to see if the database you specify in your configure file actually is supported by this calculator. And then it does regular things like import database and all these things. If you're familiar with Brightway2 framework, this should be very familiar to you. And then remember, we actually have some we have imported activities, keywords that we're interested in, but here there's a chance to add more keywords, right? So because sometimes it can be really tedious to add all the keywords you want in the Excel spreadsheet, so you can do it in the script here as well. And then basically you can do the search. We'll see it later. Use the search function, and then once you find all the activities that are relevant, you concatenate them into one data frame, feed that into the calculation function, and you get a result, which is something like this, right? So you have an output folder that you specify, so there will be a CSV file that's actually being generated, right? So those are all the relevant equal event unit processes, and then the corresponding impact assessment results, right? All right, so let's go back to the script. So going back to the two functions here, first one is search. Basically, it takes in the an overview file of your equivalent database that's corresponding to the database you want to use, and then search for the processes using the keywords. I'm not going to go through this line by line, but I hope that's quite self-explanatory. And then the second function is once you get the activities you're interested in, right? So you pass it to this calculation function, and then of course you provide the impact assessment methods that you're interested in, and the database. Then you can run the LCA calculation. But here I actually just kind of borrowed idea from Chris's notebook, where you in order to speed up the calculation, in case you have like thousands of calculations you have to do, you can do a basic matrix decomposition here. And then you can actually get the results much faster. But of course, if you have a basically new configuration of a matrix, then you have to run that again. But if you don't really basically change your technosphere composition, then you don't really have to do it. And then after that, of course, the calculation just give you numbers in an array, right? So then you want to match that with the actual activity names as you actually saw. Let me just put that up again, right? So basically, the calculation will give you those numbers, and then you want to match it with the names, right? So that's what has to be done. Okay, so it's quite simple, just these two functions that basically constitute the calculator. And I think it's quite simple if you just want to do LC using Brightway and equivalent database without having to code a lot. Then hopefully that's going to be helpful for you to generate a large range, like a selection of LC results relatively quickly. Thank you.